Warning. This program contains strong language, auditory violence, and mental nudity. It is intended only for mature audiences. Listener discretion advised. Alright, you crazy bastards, welcome back to the show that is Unshackled Fury. I am your host, Berserker, and this is the episode that you have been waiting for, especially if your name is Sal Mises. This is the episode in which we will announce and I will read the winner of the first Erotic Warcraft Fanfic Submission Contest. That's right. Well, that's not all I've got for you this week. This week on Unshackled Fury, Episode 8, we'll be talking about, well, Noble Garden. Hey, it's Noble Garden. Hooray. We have a Chronicle review, since I did make my way through that. Talking about Face Off, a little show on Syfy that I love quite a bit that Warcraft was featured on. Then we have a couple little bits of news here and there, some things about an alpha that I've never seen, but we're going to stick it out there anyway, and a little BlizzCon news to wrap that up before we get to our epic reading. But first, of course, you know this show, you know what happens now. Let's get on to our rage portion. So look in the mirror, slap yourself in the face, let's go! Let's rage. So as I do from time to time on this show, I want to start with a confession. And to frame this confession, let's go back to November of 2015, to BlizzCon, when we got our first glimpse at the Warcraft film by way of the full trailer that they showed back at that time. For those of us who had been lucky enough to go to BlizzCon the year before, we had seen some footage of the film. If people were fortunate enough to have been at Comic-Con, I think either earlier that year or the year before, they'd seen some sort of like a teaser flavor trailer type thing. But this was our first real look at this digital friend of ours, now fully realized in, well, real glory, in its flesh and blood form. And there was a lot of excitement about this trailer, finally seeing various characters that we know and love so well. I mean, for God's sakes, they have King Ragnar as Lothar. I mean, you can't really go wrong there having Travis Fimmel be Lothar. I mean, that's just fucking amazing casting. And yeah, for that reason alone, I will go see this film. But this was our first chance to see it, and there was a lot of excitement. People really seemed to dig it. There was a lot of positive commentary in the social sphere out there. But there was something about it that just didn't seem quite right to me. There was this nagging feeling that I had at the time. And while I generally liked it, and I was pretty pumped to finally see this thing come to form, and I think I may have even said a few things about how awesome it looked, and it did look awesome, there was a feeling that I just couldn't shake. And that feeling has stuck with me and has continued to grow now that we're starting to see more of the promotional machine come to light that the distribution companies, Universal and Legendary, are starting to put together. And I do not like what I am seeing. You can tell when a movie company thinks that their movie is going to do well simply by looking at the marketing and promotional material that they put together. Now, it's not a secret that Force Awakens, for instance, was going to make an absolute shit ton of money, that it was going to sell crazy amounts of tickets and all that kind of stuff. But the trailer for that made me cry. The little tidbits that they put out there made me feel something. So far, for the game that I love more than probably any other game outside of The Legend of Zelda, I have not felt a thing other than confusion. The first poster that they put out, it was not bad. Not bad. I may have retweeted it, I think. I felt that it was promising. But since then, and other colleagues of mine in the world have pointed these things out, these posters look like they were put together by some sort of amateur art department. The trailers are confusing in the sense that it's oh, orc versus human, but then you show orc fighting orc, so that doesn't really make a lot of sense. Duncan Jones responded to one of my raid teammates basically saying the marketing machine is what it is, so you just have to wait and see the film, which I completely agree with. But I am not liking the direction that this promotional material is going right now. There are going to be comparisons to Lord of the Rings, but they don't need to try so hard to stay away from that and focus on the war is coming, pick a side, brr. Like, okay, we've got that. Pick a side, Horde or Alliance. I think for the most part we feel pretty passionate about the sides that we're on. As far as in-game goes, I know I certainly am. But for the movie, I need an emotional hook. I need to know what is the story. And when I say that, I mean I as the general public. I, Berserker, World of Warcraft player, will go see this movie, will buy the Blu-ray, will spend a bunch of cash on this thing. I'm already in. You don't have to worry about me. It's the people like my dad, who grew up, huge Star Trek fan, loved Star Wars. I think I've seen Excalibur with him, probably more than I've seen just about anything. This is not the kind of promotion that will hook a guy like this. And so this is where I have the problem, is that they need to branch out and they need to hook people in. And right now, it feels like a very half-hearted effort to simply get the word out there with less than 90 days to go to say, hey, there's a Warcraft film. If you're watching this basketball game, here's a commercial. You might be interested. It just doesn't have the kind of punch that I think it needs to have. So if there is anything left in the tank, I really hope it's coming out. But right now, I have been sorely disappointed with what they've put together. You guys out there, if you have any artistic ability whatsoever, start creating your own stuff and just get it out there. And we'll all get behind it. I think that if we can get something going online, that would probably do better than what we have going right now from the official sources. It really is truly uninspiring. And it has caused me a great amount of distress and concern. So, not that I'm up really just raging about it. I'm not like throwing anything against the wall yet. But we're getting down to it. And I want to see some real hard-hitting, good-feeling kind of stuff out there. And right now, we're just not getting it. So, Legendary, Universal, whoever's got to get on it, get on this thing. Make people understand that Warcraft has got a hell of a story. It's going to have action. It's going to have adventure. It's going to have mystery, intrigue, crazy shit going on all the time. And people need to get in the theater to see it. So whatever you got to do, people, get on it, do it, and do it now. And now it's time for News and the Blues. So first things first, happy Noble Garden to you all. We have another one of Warcraft's seasonal events upon us. This one runs from March 28th until April 4th. And in-game, it essentially consists of going to your respective starting zones, finding some brightly colored eggs, which you can open. There are various prizes and tokens that you can get to turn in prizes or in for prizes. It's small, it's another little quaint festival type thing we've got going on. However, one of the more fun things tied to Noble Garden is a contest that Wowhead does every year. If it's something you want to check out, they have what they call sort of hidden eggs throughout the website, and you can find them, and you have a series of ways of turning in this information. And they have some pretty good prizes this year. So if that's something that you're interested in, you've got until April the 4th when the event shuts down. So if you choose to jump in there, good luck. But on to something a little bit more near and dear to my heart. Finally got the World of Warcraft Chronicle Volume 1 into my possession, and I spent a good deal of time going through it. And I've got to tell you, if you are into Warcraft lore, you need to pick up this book. It is not terribly expensive. I think I paid about $20 for it on Amazon. Nothing like the gigantic Art of Blizzard coffee book that I had that was pretty huge and heavy and expensive. This one's a little bit more bite-sized, a little bit more manageable. And the stories are written by Metzen and a couple of other of the Blizzard creative folk, and it serves to fill in some of the gaps of the lore in terms of the universe in which World of Warcraft exists, the reason that Azeroth is so important, where it fits in the grand scheme of things, who the Pantheon is, where they are at now. There's some really awesome stuff in there that essentially turns long-standing beliefs that I have had, and I think others have had, completely on their heads. And I don't want to spoil too much, so I want to be very careful about what I say. But if it is one thing that is very clear coming out of reading the Chronicle, is that we are on our own as far as it comes to us as Azerothians fighting our battles. We are not only on our own to fend for ourselves, we have far more power than we know. And granted, I think that works in terms of game mechanics and ensuring that we consistently level up and become more powerful. But the way that this universe is set up, particularly after the release of Chronicle, it is clear that we are very powerful beings in the universe. And the reason why has to do with why Azeroth is so important, and the information about the planet and why that works that way that it does just blew my mind. It was pretty awesome, and the way that all of this stuff fits together with the Pantheons and Sargeras and the Burning Legion, which if you've been listening to my show, you've heard a little bit about, and it reinforced a lot of that. Giving a little bit more perspective on Sargeras, which I thought was kind of interesting in a way that they're doing now with Illidan, it seems. They loop in the wild gods and the old gods and where all of the various races come from and what the relationships are to each other, and all of this timing right up until about the time of Medivh and the opening of the first Dark Portal. That's about the time in which the book ends. Hence, this is Chronicle 1. I'm sure that they will have Chronicle Volume 2 and so on and so forth. But not only, should I mention this, not only is the writing phenomenal and the storytelling just Blizzard at its best, the artwork by Peter Lee is phenomenal. And Peter Lee is probably my personal favorite of all of the artists outside of Samwise Didier, who is the grand poobah of all of the art design that they have in Blizzard. But Peter Lee, I think, really embodies the style that I enjoy the most. And for an example, that screen when you go to Northrend and you see that picture of Bolvar wearing the Helm of Domination, he is the one who drew that. He is the one who did that artwork. So if that's the style that you enjoy, you might even just want to pick up this book just to thumb through it for the artwork. There's some beautiful pieces that he's done, these one-offs that have artwork for the Burning Legion, artwork for Sargeras, for the old gods, for the trolls, for all kinds of good stuff. And it really did not disappoint. And thank God for that, because they teased this thing out months and months and months ago, year ago plus. I bought it months ago on a pre-sale deal. And now it's finally here, and I couldn't be more pleased. So if you're looking for something for yourself, hell, even if you need a gift for somebody, this is a great get and a fantastic read. So I highly recommend picking up the Chronicle if you have the opportunity. Also of note this past week was something that, well, I never really thought would happen because it's not something I ever really thought about, I guess. But watching your worlds collide is always kind of a strange thing. When World of Warcraft was the featured franchise on a show called Face Off, which is on Syfy channel. Now, if you've never watched Face Off before, what it essentially is, it's one of these reality contestant type shows where you have 16 people and there's these various challenges that they have to do, and there's some sort of winner declared at the end where you get money and a car and a thing. But the thing about Face Off that makes it unique is that it focuses on doing makeup, special effects makeup, that kind of artwork where you're not necessarily building masks or, just like helmets or things that fully enclose the head, but appliance pieces, painting, laying hair, doing all of these various things that, I know more about all of this. I could never do it, but I've learned more about how all of this is done by watching the show than I ever thought possible. You have some phenomenal judges on this show. You have a panel of 3 judges, which are constantly there. One of them is Glenn Hetrick. He's kind of this weird, uber gothic metal-looking guy. It's like if I took myself, shrunk my body down about 3 inches, 4 inches, and then turned all of my metalness up to about 15. I think that's kind of where this guy lies. But he has been in the special effects industry for quite a long time. And next to him typically is V. Neal, who is an Academy Award-winning special effects makeup designer. She's done all kinds of stuff, Hunger Games franchise, and a bunch of other things that you've definitely heard of. And Neville Page is the 3rd judge. Same thing. Another guy, he did all of the, or at least a significant amount of the design for the Tron Legacy movie, for instance. And these 3 are phenomenal judges, very talented, creative, and accomplished individuals that guide the various contestants through these judged events. You also have Michael Westmore, which if you've ever watched any Star Trek anything, you have seen the name Michael Westmore somewhere. This guy has come up with a lot of the creature designs when it comes to Star Trek and various other franchises. So this is a show that has bona fide individuals in the makeup and special effects and creature design world. And for once, Warcraft was the centered focus of this episode, and the remaining contestants, of which there were only 5 left at this time, they each had to pick a race and a class combination to create some sort of character from the world, but in this realistic sense, because here we have a movie that we're trying to promote, and I will say this was good promotion, although I think people watching the show probably are already leaning towards seeing this, but be that as it may, good promotional piece. They had Chris Robinson from Blizzard show up. He is one of the Warcraft art directors, if not the art director, and he was able to give some guidance. And essentially what you had 5 creations that were made, but only one of them really stood out. So if you watch the episode, you can stream it online, you can go to Syfy. They had one that was clearly above the rest, and it was this Draenei Death Knight that was made, and I'm telling you, it was freaky, it was awesome, it was realistic. They had Rob Kaczynski, who's playing Orgrim Doomhammer in the movie. He was the 4th judge on the judging panel for this episode, and he was a great representative for us because he was very honest about what he saw and whether things were true to character or not. But I think that he said it best in that the way that this character translated from game into real life was perfect, and it was a good example of how skillful these artists are. But it was so awesome to see Warcraft being used in this kind of a format, something that, like I said, I never really thought I would see, and it's kind of one of those things where you forget how big the Warcraft machine is until you see it in a place that's totally random, or your parents come up to you or some other friend comes up to you and say, "Hey, I saw Warcraft on this thing," and you're like, "Yeah, that's pretty crazy." And here's one of those examples. So if you get a chance, you should check it out. You can see the troll that was made. You can see the Tauren that was made, which the Tauren, the body wasn't there, but my God, the sculpting on the face was something else. There was also a Worgen that was made and a Goblin. So those are the ones that you had. The other 4 were pretty hit and miss, but that Draenei Death Knight was fucking solid. If that thing ever showed up in real life, I would probably just run and hide. It was very scary. So Syfy, check it out. Face Off, awesome stuff. The last thing I wanted to bring up real quick is that we have apparently BlizzCon dates. Now, this is super early, maybe flubbed placeholder type of information, but the website for BlizzCon was updated, and what it essentially said was that for 2016, we are looking at BlizzCon for Friday, November 4th and Saturday, November 5th. So still 2 days, even though I honestly think they need to make it a third day. It'd probably kill their employees. But it's going to be 2 days. Still looks like November 4th and 5th, which means that we'll probably hear about it in the next few weeks because tickets are typically on sale around April for the November convention. So if you've got some extra cash laying around, you want to try to make it to the show, go collect some bottles and cans, turn them into your local recycling center, whatever you got to do, get some tickets. I don't know if I'm going to make it. I've only made it once, and I always seem to be out of luck when it comes to getting those tickets online. But be prepared. This month looks like it could be the month coming up in April to hear more information and get tickets. And jot it down for November 4th, November 5th. Looking at BlizzCon, who knows? Maybe we'll show up, crash a party, throw a party of our own. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Sounds fun. All right, so that's the gist of the news that I wanted to get to. All the alpha stuff, I'm really over it. It's kind of hard to be over something, I guess, that never really started for you. But listen, they're updating animations. They're doing some more changes to abilities and different things. You know where to go to check that stuff out. I really don't have much comment on that, but it still is going on. Hopefully we'll get more of an open beta at some point, and we can start discussing these things a little more openly. But that's your update on all that jazz. So now, the moment you've all been waiting for, it is time to declare our winner of our first competition. When I first announced that I would be doing the Unshackled Fury podcast, one of the things that I said very early on was that this was not only going to be a show about the game itself, but it was also going to be a show about the world around the game. And today is one of those days when I'm going to be talking about it. Well, not really talking about it, but demonstrating some of the various things that go on that aren't necessarily licensed or approved by Blizzard, but something that goes on around the game nonetheless. And that is erotic fanfiction. Yes, I put out a call many weeks ago saying that, in fact, I wanted your entries of erotic Warcraft fanfiction for me to read on the show. I wanted to have a competition. I wanted to see what people could come up with, however crazy or however not crazy or whatever you could come up with. I wanted to see. I just wanted to have a little friendly competition, pick a few winners, read them on air, all that kind of stuff. And I almost got nothing. In fact, only one person entered this contest. So whether that's because the reach of this show is, of course, you 25 lovely listeners, followers of mine, or not, I don't know. But we got one. So we have one, and it is the winner by default. And also because, you know what, to be honest with you, this actually ain't half bad. So today we have the winner of our first annual Erotic Warcraft fanfic submission contest here on Unshackled Fury. And the winner is an entrant by the name of Rommel Friedrichsen, who sent us a very lovely little tale entitled Black Rock Mountain. And for your troubles, Rommel Friedrichsen, you will be winning the grand prize, which is a physical copy of the collector's edition of Legion. According to Amazon, it comes out September 21st. I don't know what day it's actually going to come out, but we'll arrange details, mailing, whatever. So if you've already bought the digital, you'll get to trade in this key and then do all that other nonsense with the one that you have now. But that is your prize for being my only participant, and thank you. So, without any further ado, here is our winning entry entitled Black Rock Mountain. There couldn't have been a more drastic contrast between the inside and the outside of the lone tent atop Black Rock Mountain. Outside, the cold night air chilled the desolate mountain range, the unmoving rocks and trees standing stark and shadowy against the overcast, gray sky gave a dangerous and raw look to the rugged terrain. Inside the tent, the air was moist and warm with heavy breathing. Sweat stained the canvas floor. The weatherproof sides shuddered and bucked. much like the occupants of the tent itself. The very tent seemed alive. Its movement, limited by the tethers which kept it safe from wind, proved that life did indeed exist on Black Rock Mountain. Anduin Wrynn, the Prince of Stormwind and heir to the throne, was caught in a headlock by his close friend, Wrathion, the last of the Black Dragons. As the two wrestled shirtless within the confines of the undersized tent, it became clear that Anduin was on the losing end. This time, he collapsed to the floor, panting. Wrathion flipped Anduin onto his back and pinned him. He straddled the helpless young prince and leaned forward over him, menacingly. Anduin struggled to free himself, but every attempt was in vain. Wrathion had him completely submissive, just where he wanted him. Wrathion twitched, and a tiny grin lunged at Anduin, his hands roughly pulling Anduin's face towards his. Anduin grunted, smiling, as he thrust his tongue into Wrathion's mouth. Wrathion growled and pulled Anduin closer, stroking his face with one hand and clumsily loosening his own belt with the other. Anduin arched his hips off the ground, and Wrathion groaned, hurrying the pace at which he attempted to loosen his belt. Anduin freed his arms from Wrathion's compromised grasp and hastily undid the belt himself. His hands immediately flew to his own pants, and he freed his aching erection, which he grabbed to try and ease the tension. Wrathion shoved Anduin's hand aside and grabbed it instead, more forcefully, and rubbed frantically until Anduin could barely stand it any longer. Wrathion grabbed Anduin by the shoulders and flipped him over. Anduin elevated himself on his hands and knees and braced himself for the illicit euphoria that was the Black Prince. Wrathion had never done anything like this before he met Anduin, and secretly he wondered why and how he knew exactly what to do. Thoughts of why and how left his head, replaced with here and now, and he concentrated solely on Anduin bent over in front of him. A little spit was all it took to ease the effort a little bit, and Wrathion grabbed Anduin by the hips and pulled him back hard. Stars danced both in front of and behind Wrathion's red eyes as he pushed Anduin forward again in his effort to go faster, harder, rougher. In this very moment, Anduin gave Wrathion such a feeling of dominance that mixed with the grunts of his lover and the inexplicably intense feeling of burying himself in another man, he climaxed. Anduin, on the other hand, was getting accustomed to being on the receiving end. He shut his eyes tightly as he felt Wrathion begin to peak. The combined sensations of Wrathion behind him and his own hands in front nearly caused Anduin to black out. Instead, he merely shouted and collapsed, exhausted and sated. He lay face down on the floor of the tent, too tired to move at the moment, and Wrathion lay down on top of him. Wrathion wrapped his arms around Anduin's shoulders. Anduin rolled over, and Wrathion rolled off. But no sooner did he stop rolling than he scooched right back over to Anduin and threw an arm across his chest. He nuzzled into Anduin's shoulder and heaved a mighty contented sigh. "Why can't I quit you?" Anduin mumbled quietly. When Wrathion didn't answer him after a silence that was too long, even for Wrathion, Anduin turned his head and smiled to himself when he found Wrathion fast asleep. Anduin smiled and drew Wrathion closer to him, then fell asleep soon after. And with that, we have the end of our tale of Black Rock Mountain. Thank you, Rommel Friedrichsen, and again, congratulations on your new copy of the World of Warcraft Legion Collector's Edition. Well, I don't know if we've made history today, but we've certainly made something. So thanks again for stopping by this little show. And like I said before, I promise to bring you something you've never heard on these other Warcraft podcasts. And rest assured, I doubt you have ever heard that story before out there in the Nethersphere. So this is your host, Berserker, thanking you again for stopping by. You can always follow me on Twitter at Berserker Rage. You can follow Unshackled Fury on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Stitcher. And I will be back soon for another episode of who knows what. You never know what kind of idiotic shit I'm going to come up with for this show. But hopefully you enjoy it. You'll come back and check it out another time. So until then, Strength and honor to you.